it seems to me that we live in a time when selfishness is exalted, and the people on the religious right feel that this is because of the decline of godliness. But I would say that the people on the religious right are about the most selfish people that I've ever met. And because they are just so narcissistically involved in being right. They're not just religious, they're right. So I'm very happy to know that most of the mainstream faiths actually reject this narcissism. We talked about Catherine Ponder and this idea of prosperity Christianity, for example, that you take a doctrine where a man says that you should give everything you have to the poor, and you can't get through the eye of a needle if you're a camel, and those kind of things. And that becomes, but if God likes you, he'll make you a billionaire.
He'll buy you a Porsche.
Yeah, buy you a Porsche. We already did that.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
So it's a bit...
Lord, won't you?
No, I did it.
You did it. Okay.
Yeah, I did it. He doesn't even know. He's never even heard of Janis Joplin.
Who?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about von Hayek before. Do you want to say something about him and his books?
I think I'd rather start with Ayn Rand, if that's okay.
He's going to start with Ayn Rand.
Who said...
South African fascist.
Yeah, she said altruism is evil, because she doesn't just have rational egoism in her belief.
Altruism, by the way, means being nice to people.
Yeah. So she doesn't just have rational egoism, which is basically that if you don't act, when you do an action, if it's not totally in your own interest, then it's irrational. She doesn't just believe that, she also believes it's unethical to not act in your own self-interest.
As in, those are all my cakes, you can't have one.
And von Hayek took this idea.
Von Hayek was a professor at Chicago University.
Yeah, where Leo Strauss came from too.
And Bruno Bettelheim, who we're not at all sure about, frankly. But Matthieu Eliade was there as well, and I quite like him.
And he took this idea and suggested that you could make an entirely functional society if everybody acted in their own interest.
This is von Hayek.
Yeah, von Hayek.
Yeah. And what were his books called again?
The Constitution of Liberty.
Yeah.
And The Road to Serfdom.
The Road to Serfdom. And
not in that order.
And let's start the other order then. What did The Road to Serfdom say?
It suggested that if the state has can intervene in the market anyway, it will eventually lead to a sort of serfdom, basically.
So if governments try to control economics in any way, then ultimately we'll all end up as slaves. That's what the word serf means, isn't it? And that gives us a dogma, a religion called free market economics, which so far has never been practiced by anybody and doesn't work. Free market economics is about as effective as communism. These are two terms that are used for something that nobody's ever done. So that you have free market economies like the United States that then subsidise their farmers. So it's not a free market if you're giving money to people.
Or your bank.
So and this all traces back to enlightened self-interest. Was it Adam Smith who coined that phrase, or was it a bit later? Now, Adam Smith was not a capitalist, the man who wrote The Wealth of Nations in the 18th century, which is the foundation for Reaganomics and Thatcherism and monetarism and all of this. That's not at all what Adam Smith was saying. In fact, he said that landlords should be put up against the wall and shot. So he was pretty much against capitalism. But there's this idea of enlightened self-interest. And what does that mean?
Basically, that if you act to help other people, you are doing it, it helps you in the end. So it's an enlightened self-interest. It's not being selfish, it's helping others to help yourself, basically.
So if I eat all the chocolate cake, there'll be more jobs for chefs to make chocolate cake.
Yeah, I think so.
And so they'll get fed.
Or if I share the chocolate cake with somebody, they're more likely to make me another one in future.
Oh,
is that right?
Yeah. Give them a little piece.
Yeah.
but if you're firing missiles at Syria, then the thing is to interrupt your conversation by explaining that chocolate cake at your resort in Florida is actually the best in the world.
True.
And that actually happened. I've just killed a bunch of people, and this chocolate cake is fantastic.
Is it Mar-a-Lago?
Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
I think this is a curse. I don't think that, there's this thing called the altruist equation, the idea that you'll be more altruistic, more friendly, more benevolent towards your relations, and there'll be this kind of, the less related to you they are, the less
because you want to
altruistic
protect your genes, and because you have about, half of mine? Something like...
I haven't counted.
Oh, good.
But you have about half of mine.
Yeah, true. Wait, you mean you're not my son?
No, Dad.
Oh, okay.
No, that was a confusion thing. That
Yeah.
was the other thing
other video.
Remember,
yeah.
wearing the same.
So should we talk about John Nash and?
Let's talk about John Nash, who had a beautiful mind and is best known for being Russell Crowe on the screen. And what did John Nash propose?
Game theory or something like that. He helped.
He's one of the people that worked on game theory. Yeah,
but suggested that you break down all the interactions that you have, either socially or militarily, into this framework where by acting always in your own self-interest, you'll get the best outcome for yourself. And again, there's this rationality, irrationality. If your opponent is acting entirely for their self-interest, they're rational. If not, you assume they're irrational.
And this kind of breaks down if you apply logic to it. Isn't that the problem with dogma, though, that people come to believe something so firmly, and they go, well, because when John Nash was interviewed by the brilliant Adam Curtis, he said, didn't they realise I was paranoid schizophrenic? So, and whenever they tried game theory out, they tried it out on the secretaries, while they were inventing mutually assured destruction, and they found that none of them was actually acted in the way that was predicted, that people actually do care about other people. One of the horrors of this policy was that the von Hayek doctrine, Leo Strauss, also from Chicago, this penetrated politics in a huge way, tied up with Milton Friedman's bizarre idea of monetarism, which is that if people are starving, you let them starve, because that way they won't become scroungers.
They'll be dead.
They'll be dead, so you won't have any problems with them. And there's a kind of eugenics involved in this, a breeding thing, that if you let the poor just starve to death,
then
there'll be nobody to wash the dishes. You get the same thing with healthcare, this wonderful idea that you can exclude some part of the population from healthcare and believe that the diseases that they then catch won't spread to you.
That's a good point.
So altruism, I'm afraid that rationally, it is best to not just look after number one. I'm glad you didn't make that joke.
Yeah.
But also to look after the species. So we are becoming, as a culture, because of public relations, because of advertising, because of spin, because of propaganda, whichever word we want to use for these things, people are just becoming more consumer-based. They're becoming more, can I do this? And you see crazy things like, I'm saving the environment by recycling plastic. How sensible is that? Rather than actually reducing your use of excessive things, reusing the things you have, people go straight to the third option, which is, well, I've sent 7 bottle tops in, so I'm a good person now. We would say that selfishness is not good. It's, in fact, antisocial. The problem is, as I said, it leaked into politics. So Margaret Thatcher, who I think really did have the best intentions, but not the best ideas, she actually had a survey done throughout our civil service, the huge bureaucracy in this country, which employs about 10% of the people who work, by the way. And that survey was to find out if people were altruistic or not. And what they were looking for was the people who were honest about it and said, no, I'm mean and selfish. I want benefit for myself. And those people were promoted. And people who cared about anybody
fired or demoted.
trickled down the system, as you might say. So we'd like to point out that this is idiotic. And if you're being selfish right now, watching this when you should be out doing something for the good of humanity, then, well, that's fine, actually.
Yeah, keep watching.
We don't care. And we're very glad to have had the opportunity of giving you these selfish ideas that we have. And thank you very much for your time and your attention.